Step aside, individuals, it's the team's turn. This weekend marks year 2 of the team quarterfinals, and we'll break down the biggest lessons learned in year 1 on this episode of Inside the Leaderboard. What's going on, everyone? Tommy Marquez here with another edition of Inside the Leaderboard, presented by GoWOD, the official mobility partner of the NOBULL CrossFit Games. And this weekend is the first time we'll get to see the teams actually participate as a unit in competition. And last year's team quarterfinals provided us some pretty insightful numbers as far as what's potentially at stake this weekend. Our first big number today is 23:14, as in 23 minutes and 14 seconds, which was the average minimum working time across the 4 non-max lift tests of last year's quarterfinals. Now, this was calculated using the top times globally of each test, meaning that every single team on the planet last year worked longer than this per workout, with many of them getting time capped, which speaks to the nature of the programming durations at this level now that we have the full teams working in unison. Consider that the individual programming this year bore resemblance to and built off elements of last year. I think the teams should gear up for some longer duration tests this year, whether each individual is actively participating in the duration of each test or not. Which brings us to our next big number, 8. Last year, believe it or not, there were only 8 instances total across the quarterfinal programming where elements of teamwork like synchronized movements actually made an appearance. All of them happened in a single workout, test number 2, which each male-female pair accounting for 4 of those instances. This is where I think we see a major step forward in year 2, because the floor layouts that were released already suggest that the instances of all 4 athletes working simultaneously or in unison will increase. 4 of the 5 test layouts include equipment and athlete placings for the entire team, and I think Boz and the team will ultimately open up the playbook more in year 2. Now, our final number touches on the relevancy of quarterfinals down the line, and it's 62.5, which I'm sure you can guess is a percentage. Coming out of the quarterfinals last year, 62.5% of the teams in what I would call a games qualifying position heading into semifinals ultimately held court and qualified. For North America, that meant finishing in the top 20, Europe top 10, Oceania top 3, top 2 for Asia and South America, and winning quarterfinals in Africa. So we're going to hit depth on that number because as strong an indicator as quarterfinals may have been for teams hoping to qualify, it was even more so for teams that were maybe hoping to get some hardware and finish on the podium at the games. These were your top 6 finishers in Madison who ultimately were within striking distance of the podium on the final day. In every instance, not only did they finish quarterfinals in a qualifying position, but they finished inside the top 10 as well. And just for a little extra tidbit to chew on, each team had an individual quarterfinals athlete that qualified for semis as well, which is interesting given the nature of the test last year. But I do think these help us narrow the scope as to where we should be looking for podium hopefuls as results ultimately come pouring in this weekend. And speaking of podium hopefuls, CrossFit Mayhem Freedom is the prohibitive favorite to take home the Affiliate Cup title, and I had the chance to catch up earlier today with their new member, Sam Cournoyer. All right, I'm joined now by a multi-year individual athlete who has decided to go team this year. He's joining the Mayhem Freedom squad, and Sam Cournoyer. Sam, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
First things first, one of the big announcements this offseason was the fact that you were going to be joining the Mayhem Freedom team and, stepping aside from the individual competition for just the moment. I think given your potential, everyone was a little surprised to hear that. But what was ultimately the deciding factor in you choosing to join Mayhem?
There was 2 main reasons, actually. The first one was like, when Rich Froning is asking you for his last year, if you want to be his teammate, it's kind of hard to say no, I guess. The second main reason was I wanted to focus myself on specific stuff in training as an individual. You know how it works, like with the open, quarterfinal, semifinal, when the season starts, it's kind of hard to do those extra work on the side and just focus yourself on what you have to do to be better as an individual. So with me going team this year, I'm able to do those stuff more often in the season, because I don't have to temper, or I don't have to focus on open quarterfinals as an individual. Because yes, I'm gonna go back individual next year. I'm just going team for this year.
You said this weekend is the first time you actually get to compete as a team as part of this season with the team quarterfinals coming up. We've got the floor plans. We know the submission window. Have you guys talked through, your timing and plan of attack as far as cadence is concerned, with these windows and what you guys are going to do this weekend?
We tried to talk about it, but if we're being honest, even if we have the floor plan right now, it's kind of hard to say what the workout's going to be. There's so much possibility. The goal is, I think we want to do all of them maybe on Thursday, all of it.
Oh, all of it. Wow.
Yeah, we want to do like a big day of training. So maybe we're going to start around 3:00 on Thursday, do maybe 3 of them, and maybe finish on Friday morning if the workout are too big on volume. But we want to crush those as fast as possible so we can jump back in training. And I know Rich wants to do them as fast as possible.
Oh man, and I mean that just speaks to why everyone sees you guys as the favorites. The ability to be able to do those, all of them in a 24-hour span, more or less, is not something everyone can do. Well, Sam, I really appreciate the time and joining me on the show on such short notice. And honestly, man, excited to see you throw down, and best of luck this weekend.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Big thanks to Sam for joining the show. I'm excited to see him join that Mayhem Freedom roster for sure. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Leaderboard, presented by GoWOD. GoWOD is the official mobility partner of the NOBULL CrossFit Games, designed for athletes with one goal: to help you perform your best. Download the app now for a free mobility test and a 14-day trial. Pretty sweet if you ask me. Speaking of sweet, Miles to Madison is off and running. Our docuseries is back. Episode 1 is out now. Episode 2 drops Thursday, April 14th. And to get caught up, you can go check out episode 1 on the CrossFit Games YouTube. Best of luck to all the teams competing this weekend in quarterfinals. And until next week, I'll see you on the leaderboard.